I have played this one a couple of times. Oh wait, no, that's not where it was. Mosquito.
Welcome back, wonderful humans. It's third period. Bell just rang. You better get to class. You don't want to be tardy, or hall monitor Eric here is going to write you a demerit. It's
Sure.
back to school, back to school special part 2 for the board game dads. My name is Anthony,
And my name is Eric.
and we're going to talk to you today about some more games that can have a sort of educational portion to them. We had one video in this series already with our friend Ryan from dadsuggest.com, where we focused on more of the elementary school aged games. So check that video out if you didn't see that one yet. Today, our focus is on middle and high school age students. And Eric and I have a few kind of, I guess, more complex picks for sure than the elementary ones, but there's a lot of gray area between them all, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. There's I mean, it's back to school, middle and high school. Are there a lot of games about going back to school and middle school and high school? No. So these are a little bit of a reach here and there.
If you've never watched one of our videos before,
They're all reaches.
you better get used to us being quite flexible and reaching for these picks sometimes. But hey, they're all good games, and that's all that matters. We'll even have some honorable mentions, I'm sure. And by the way, I'll mention this at the end, but I'm going to say it again now because it just popped into my head. We do want to hear from you in terms of comments. So for this particular video, I'd love to know if there are games that you have had success teaching or playing with students or children that are of the middle school, high school age. Maybe it's your own kids. Maybe you're an educator of some kind. And I don't know, maybe you're young enough that you had some experience into modern board games when you were still in high school. I'd love to know that as well. So let us know about that, and I'll probably try to remind you at the end as well. Eric, before we get started with honorable mentions, let's talk a little bit about middle school.
All right.
I was not a fan overall.
I wasn't either. I also wasn't really a fan of the last year of elementary school because that other school came over and then they split everybody up. Right. I got like, my best friends that I've been going to school with since kindergarten. All of a sudden, fifth grade comes around and now they're in a different class because I got to, have class with all these other jabronis.
Well, some of those jabronis were pretty cool. Ended up
Yeah,
being our
you're right.
friends,
You're right.
but it was a weird thing. So
Right.
so
It
and
was it
Eric,
was my first taste of like,
yeah,
oh, is this what and then middle school and high school, you go in different classes, you got different kids, students in the class, every single class,
yeah.
there's new people. So it was the first taste of that, and it was weird.
It was definitely weird, yeah, and that's a good point. I forgot about the whole integration thing there. So our town initially had 4 elementary schools, and in our fifth grade year, 2 of those schools closed, and so the other two, our school and one of the other ones, pretty much doubled in size. And that was, you're right, a little bit of a sneak peek into the middle school
Yeah.
setting there, which is a weird one, and I think it's weird for a lot of folks.
I guess it was
Um,
nice that we had that kind of gradual change where we start to recognize things that are gonna be different in middle school while we're in fifth grade. But
Yeah, I'm sure that was one of the reasons that people gave that were in favor of that for sure. But in general, middle school is a weird time, whether you're whether you're in middle school or you have a kid who's in middle school. Um, I taught for many years at the elementary level, I should say, and even before I got my first teaching job, I knew that that seventh, eighth was like I wasn't going there. That was not going to be my fit. I would much rather have done even high school over that, to be honest with you. Much prefer the younger grades, but um, yeah, middle school is a weird time. High school can be still a little bit weird, but I think you kind of find your stride a little bit. By that point, you at least start to hopefully have some kind of a focus on what things you're interested in terms of subjects or sports or hobbies or things like that. And depending on how big your school is, we had a pretty close knit class, right? About 100 kids overall,
yeah,
105,
we
I
weren't a
think.
very large high school.
So everybody pretty much knew everybody else. Eric, favorite teacher for high school?
Oh, high
And
school?
I know your least favorite. I'm not even going to bring that up.
Ah, man. I like Mr. Lynch.
That's the one I was going to guess that you were going to say.
I like Mr. Geltrude. There was a couple of them that I liked a lot. And Mrs. Edward, she was really
Science, right? No.
Mrs. Edwards was math, but that was middle school.
Okay, okay.
Mrs. K and
Yeah.
Mrs. Zanella. Love
Yeah.
Mrs. Zanella. She was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I agree. And Mrs. K was definitely my favorite. I had her three different times in high school, for regular English and then creative writing, and she was the yearbook person as well.
Nice.
She she was really cool. So Miss K, if you're watching this, which I highly doubt you are my favorite teacher. So thank you.
And Miss Zanella, if you're watching this, thank you for letting me get away with all the stuff that I pulled and really just kind of like smiling and laughing because, yeah.
Zanella was a special kind.
Yeah.
She definitely was on your level, right? She knew what things were pretty much like BS and what part you had to kind of like really do, and she was okay with that. And she was funny. She made me laugh on multiple occasions. All right, so that's our high school brief history here, but on to some board game topics. Some honorable mentions here. I do not know if I even have one because I didn't
have
think
one.
about it until now.
Why don't you think about it for a couple of seconds, and I'm going to throw out mine. Mine is a game called Alchemist. It's basically set in a school where you're trying to take these different ingredients and create potions, and then you're trying to figure out the science behind it, and what happens when you take bat wings and you add them to, like, I don't know, rat tails, and then you get something, and then you're marking it, and everybody's doing their own research, and there's students there's like maybe interns or students or something like that you're sending off at different points of the game. And so it's has to do with school a little bit, but I did not want to talk about this game because the game that I'm about to talk about is very similar in setting.
Okay.
So before I get there, did you think of a honorable mention while I was rambling on? I tried to ramble on a little bit longer to give you some time.
Yeah, and I legit didn't even think about this for some reason.
You get it later. So my first game is called Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. This is Forrest Pruzan Creative, I think, was the designing force behind this. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that. Probably not the way that I just did. This is a 2 to 4 player deck builder. It's about 45 minutes, and I think it plays ages 11 and up. Now, this is a cooperative deck builder, and it's a campaign. So when you get the box, you first start with the Adventure 1, and that's basically Harry Potter Book 1. And then you go through the 7 books, and each time you add a new book, you get slightly more difficult villains or just more cards or whatever. And then after you play through the whole thing, by the very end, you now just have a regular deck building game where you can pick, I don't know, 10 or so of the 15 to 20 villains. So it's always different every time you play, and you got a bunch of more cards. And it's cool. It can get a little difficult at times.
Yeah, this is one you like to house rule.
We do. There's a couple of the villains that either we just take them right out of the game right from the beginning, or if they come out as one of the first 3 before we have any cards in our hand, then we'll shuffle them back in, and then we'll just have them come out later. But basically, it's your typical deck build. You got a 10-card deck of cards, or you get 5 cards in your hand, and then you're going to use them to gain energy and money, or energy, or I guess it's money, and you're going to use your money to buy items and spells and allies. And if you've played one deck builder, you've played them all. This one just happens to have Harry Potter theme, which is at a school, and every single book that they write for 7 years, they keep going at the very beginning of the book, back to school. So there's 2 expansions for this game. One is called like the Monster Bag of Monsters, and the other one's like Charms and Potions or something. We've gotten a little bit into the Monster one. We haven't touched Charms and Potions yet, just because there's a lot going on. But it's really cool. I think I mentioned this, but just in case I didn't, it's cooperative deck builder.
Yeah.
And so the cooperation is really, you might have a player power that will help somebody else if it gets triggered on your turn or their turn. And some of these cards are going to allow you to heal another player, or every player gets an energy or stuff like that. So it's not just you're all doing the same goal. There are things where I can do this, and then I'm going to help you. I'm going to play this card, and then you get something. Oh, you don't have a lot of health. Oh, I can heal you 3 with it. So it has a little bit of a unique type of cooperation.
Gotcha.
And
So,
basically, you
all right.
play through, and each turn, you got your villain cards that you're trying to defeat, and then you're going to get these dark arts cards that you're going to flip one over or more each round, and they're going to do something like take life away, or add some of these control tokens, those little cool metal ones with the skulls on them, to the location. And so the more control that the villains have of the locations, the harder the game is. And so you want to keep their control down. So you're trying to manage a couple different things. And I think one of the books even includes Horcruxes, which we don't play with that anymore. There's already a lot going on. We don't need that.
So, have you played through? Well, maybe restart that question. Have you played the game, the base game, again after going through all of it? Like you said, once you go through all of them, you have a
We
regular.
played through the whole thing,
Yeah.
and at no point did we stop and separate all the cards and put them back into the different boxes for book 7, book 6. But it's just our game now.
Okay.
And then we get the expansion, and we add that to this complete game.
Okay.
And little by little, we're just adding more and more stuff. And once we're done with the one expansion, we'll open up the other one, and then we'll start adding more and more stuff to that. But it's tough when you have so many games and 2 kids. Like, you don't get to play games over and over and over again. You get to play it once every 6 months or so, if the game's lucky.
Yeah, that's true. I guess that's why I haven't really delved into like any of the legacy games yet. I'm afraid of never getting to play it, or playing like, twice and then not for like years, and it's just, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I'll tell you what, we played Pandemic Legacy, and it's cool because we kind of had to force ourselves to continue, continue, continue. And then eventually it was like, all right, we need shelf space. We got to play these last couple of months, finish this game off, because now we already have, season 2. And so we got to finish this one, clear the shelf off so we can put season 2 on the shelf. And we haven't gotten through that one yet.
Mhm. You didn't start that one yet, right?
We started it.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah.
You're waiting for the next pandemic lockdown to finish it up.
No, we just got a lot of games.
Yeah.
And then we go in there, we're like, oh, we're going to play a game. What do you want to play? We look at every single game. You want to play Marvel Champions? We just play Marvel Champions again.
Nice. Yeah, I played the Harry Potter one. I think once or twice, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Didn't dislike it. I don't know. Maybe someday it'll get into the collection. Who knows?
Yeah, it's your typical deck builder. You played one, you played them all. There's nothing really special about this one, but it's fun.
All right. So for my first pick, I kind of borrowed from your thinking here in terms of the setting. Mine is a little more of a stretch than yours, though. So my first one here is called Medieval Academy. So it's got Academy right in the name there, right? So there's where the stretching begins. But basically, in this game, you are a young squire, and you are learning the different ways of, knighthood and all that stuff. So there's going to be different areas that you're sort of trying to progress and be the best in terms of there's like gallantry and fighting, jousting, and studying and all this stuff and things like that.
Just like high school.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. In this game, you're going to do some card drafting in the beginning. And then once you have your hand of cards, everyone's going to take turns playing one of these cards. And the cards are going to allow you to move your particular marker that many spots along whatever track it is that you're playing through, right? So in this game, you're going to set up with all these different boards here that you're focusing on. These are all the different places that you can study and progress. And as you play these cards, you'll move your token around. And when everybody's finished with all of those, you're going to kind of score each one of these sections one by one, depending on who's farthest around the track. You'll get a certain amount of points. And some of them score every round, some of them score like every other round, things like that. But it's a cool little like mini, just like I feel like they're like mini races almost, right? So you have to kind of pick and choose where you're going to focus. Where's the big points here on this one, or no one's really going for this track. I'm going to try to collect those cards a little bit more. I really enjoy this one. I feel like it's not that popular. I feel like it flew under the radar for a good bit, but I do
Really?
enjoy it.
I feel like I
Um,
saw this a lot at like mass market, like maybe at Target, definitely at Barnes and Noble. So I feel
oh
like if it's
yeah,
at
okay.
Barnes and Noble, it's not really flying under the radar that much.
That's a good point. I didn't realize that. Anyway, I do really love the artwork in this game. It's very bright, it's very vibrant. I like the illustrations on these boards that you're playing, and the cards are pretty cool as well. So the cards range from, I think, values 2 through 5. And again, each board has its corresponding set of cards you're going to be playing to them. But what's cool is as the values of the numbers increase on the cards, the artwork changes ever so slightly. And this is something I really appreciate in a game, right? Because they did not have to do this at all. Easily could have been one picture on every card with just the number being different. But if you take a look here, like the young squire next to the king, the low card you start out as the jester, then you get to bring him a drink, then his crown, and then you're full on like his assistant. Same thing with this trying to woo the princess here, right? You got this little cruddy flower moving all the way up to a giant bouquet, which I see now is
Yeah,
upside down.
all of a sudden you can walk on walls like
Yeah, there you
Spider-Man.
go.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a
hey,
promotion.
there you go. Superpowers. So a little detail, but I really do like this one. Pretty simple game, but enough to think about that it's pretty engaging. There's not, your turn is not like dictated for you. You have some decisions to make for sure. And I feel like this is a good family weight game as well. This is from the company Yellow, which puts out some very, very good family weight games. Scaling from kind of simpler to a little more complex. So I really like their stuff in general.
Me too.
Yeah, buddy. All right. What is your second pick here for middle high school?
All right, so my second game is a game called Periodic, a game of the elements. This is a 2 to 5 player game. It's I think it was published by Genius Games. It plays ages 10 and up, and it plays in about 40 minutes or so. And it's a grid movement set collection game where you're moving along the periodic table of the elements. Like
Mhm.
that's the board. You're moving from one element to another, and your movement's dictated by this little track on the bottom where there's I think 5 or 6 different ways that you can move. You can move from left to right, or up and to the right, or down and to the left. And
Hmm.
so you can either pay energy and be able to do multiple movements on your turn, or you can take all the energy from one of those movements and then you just get the one movement.
Oh, so as you do this movement, you're literally putting like tokens on these cards.
Right.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, and then these other cards down the bottom where there's like table salt and bronze, and these are the gold cards. And each time you stop on an element as you're moving on the top on the actual table of elements, you're going to put like a research marker on whichever gold card may have the element that you're currently on.
Okay.
Once once you've researched all 3 of the elements from a specific card, then you get that. And then another card will come out, and then you're trying to move around the table of elements and get all the elements and put them there before somebody else does. And if you put one on there and then somebody else gets it, that gold card, and researches the whole thing, you'll still get points. You don't just waste whatever movement you did.
Okay.
And so you go around and you do that, and it's a fun little game. It's
It
a
looks
kind of
cool.
I was going to say it's kind of boring looking unless you're into the science, right? Like when I was in high school, and if somebody had been like, "Hey, do you want to play this game, the periodic table elements?" I'd be like, "No, I learned enough about this stuff in school. The last thing I want to do is learn about this for fun." But that was me. I'm not every kid. There's probably a lot of people out there that'd be like, "Yeah, I'm learning about this in school. This would be cool to put that knowledge and see if that helps me in the game or learn something new." And the game comes with a book that actually explains the science and the history of the periodic table of elements, and mass, increase mass, and all the different stuff that I don't am not the person to explain to you. But it's in the book. It's a cool game. I think it looks cool, but 15-year-old me would say it's lame. Have you had a chance to play this one?
I haven't. I have not. When you first told me about this, that was the first time that I had heard of it. But it does look pretty cool, and there's something kind of iconic-ish looking of about the periodic table, right? It's been on
Right.
posters and T-shirts and things like
I
that.
got my
So
my superhero periodic
there
table
you
with the
go.
superhero shirt on.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. So how does this game end? Is it just a points thing, or is you get to a certain point on the table? Is there like a finish line?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I think it's a certain amount of goal cards.
Okay. Okay.
Um, Although no, it looks like there's a track right above the movement cards where each turn you're going from 0 all the way to I don't know something. Nah,
Uh,
I don't remember.
it says 28 at the end there. Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah. Sure.
approve of this question before we started recording this video, so we'll just edit that out later.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
All right. So, what is your final game for back to school, middle and high school?
All right. So I I picked this game for a few reasons. The biggest reason is I just like talking about it. It is pretty much my favorite game, and in thinking about this topic in particular, I did want to focus on something that had a science element to it. I do feel like a lot of times when you ask a kid, a middle or high school kid, age kid, their favorite subject, a lot of times science is the answer to that. I feel like more so than other things. And I feel like that's the best theme that kind of lends itself to having a game about it, right? And I mean, we could do a whole bunch of science themed games. But this game that I want to talk about is Wingspan. So if you're into birds at all, you've probably heard of this game, or if you've watched any other board game video ever, you probably have heard of this game. It's extremely popular, and for a good reason. It's a very inviting game. It's very nice to look at, and it's pretty engaging. It's got a lot of cool mechanics to it. It's an engine builder at the heart of it, right? And you're going to be playing different birds into different habitats, and some of them have special powers, and they're all going to give you points at the end of the game in some way, sometimes in multiple ways. Now, this picture right here is a lot of upgraded stuff. The dice tower you see here and the wooden trays are things that were gifted to me by my lovely wife for this game, along with those food tokens. But the eggs and the dice are standard. They come with the game. So you get some pretty good looking components in this, even without the upgrades.
Oh yeah, those eggs. We've said this. I think we talked
Yeah.
about this back in Easter.
Yeah.
They look delicious.
Yeah. Too delicious.
I mean, like chocolate delicious,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
like egg yolk delicious.
You're basically going to have a certain amount of actions that you can do for each round. And you can do things like play a bird, get some food, lay some eggs. And what's cool about this game is that as the game progresses over the 4 rounds, you're going to get one less um, turn, one less action for each round. So in the last round, you only have, I think, five, things to put out for actions. But by then, ideally, you have a little bit of an engine built up. So those turns hopefully will take you a little bit longer,
Right.
or take you a little bit further, I should say, if you've got some nice combos set up. So a lot of these have to do with your stuff, but a lot of them also have to do with other players in the game as well, which I think is really interesting. It adds a little bit of interaction, not like take that stuff, but sometimes there's a lot of like mutual benefits in this game, right? Like some birds say every player gets one of these things, or sometimes it's just the player to your left does this, then you get to do this.
And when we first got it, the first couple times we played it, I was not a big fan of it.
Yeah, I know.
It has grown on me a lot. I really love the art. But again, this game suffers from the same thing Periodic suffers from, right? 15-year-old Eric is going to look at it and be like, I don't care about birds.
Yeah, yeah.
How come they don't have lasers? But adult Eric is what? This is cool. Like, it's got all these birds. I want to learn all about, I want to go watch birds. Like, this is amazing to, adult Eric.
The cards here do have a little bit of a factoid about each bird too, so there is that educational aspect to it.
Do
And
you do you have a favorite bird card in this game? Like, is there a favorite bird represented in this game?
I like personally a favorite bird of mine. I
Yeah,
don't know.
whatever.
Maybe like I like the mockingbird a lot
Okay.
because I see them in the area. But there's so many bird cards now, and I mean
Yeah.
I have both expansions. You do as well.
Yeah.
If you put all these cards together, it's insane. I mean,
It's a lot of
it's
cards.
so many cards. So I'm lucky that my wife likes this game a lot too. We have everything together. We don't separate the expansion stuff anymore. So we just played this a couple nights ago, actually, or last night, I should say. And in our game, we have cards from the base game and European and Oceanic expansion. And I prefer it that way. I think
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun, and you're gonna learn something from this if you read the factoids, and they're true to life. And designer Elizabeth Hargrave, fantastic designer, and you can tell that she really put a lot of work into this stuff. And hopefully there are more expansions coming for this game. I'd be shocked if there were none.
I guess it depends on how many more birds there are.
Well, you figure
Birds of paradise.
you
And
got
they're
like
going out of like the Galapagos or something and
yeah, we got
get some. What are those birds? Oh, yeah, I guess those are the birds of paradise. Where's Paradise Island? I don't know.
Africa.
There's a lot of crazy, crazy looking birds in this world, especially the parts of the world that are like almost untouched by man.
Yeah, well, the
I like.
Oceania one has some really
Yeah, that's true too.
weird looking stuff. But yeah, Wingspan, great game. Check it out. I
This
love it.
this was going to be my honorable mention until I found
Uh,
out you were doing it, and then I had to throw Alchemist in there real quick. I was like, oh, Alchemist, yeah, sort of like Harry Potter.
at least you have one because I don't have one.
I'll give you one.
Go ahead.
Second honorable mention, and this one is credited to Batista, would be Planet, because it teaches you about the natural habitats in the world and what kind of animals live there.
That's true.
Done.
That's a good one. Good job. Saving me as always.
Yeah.
Anyway, folks, the school day's ending here. We had study period, which is kind of a joke, right? We had gym. The worst is when you had
Gym was my
first.
favorite class.
Yeah, but the worst is we had it like first period of the day.
No, the worst was when you go to high school and they're like, oh, you got to take your clothes off in front of all these other dudes. And you're like, what? What? I don't want to see anybody's underwear. I don't want people looking at me in my underwear. That was weird. It was a little bit of a shocker going from elementary school to high school.
Yeah.
And
that was a middle school thing, though, wasn't it?
I don't know. Our middle school was in our high school. So it kind of gets a little confusing when you try to remember back then.
Yeah, our middle school was essentially just one wing of the high school.
Yeah.
Which we had all of our major classes in, but then for all the special classes library and lunch and stuff like that, we were amongst the high schoolers. So that was interesting as well.
Yeah.
Folks, we've got to wrap up here. Again, I mentioned this earlier, but let us know in the comments below if you have a favorite game for this age range, if you had success yourself teaching kids or your own kids or anybody this stuff. And if you just enjoy any of the games that we talked about, I'd love to hear from you. Eric, anything you'd like to add before we head home?
They say that high school is the most important part of your life. They are wrong. So if you don't like high school, it gets better.
I don't know who says that, but
I think Zach Morris said it.
Zach Morris is trash.
Wow, no, he was cool.
No, there's a YouTube series called Zach Morris is trash.
He was kind of a jerk.
All right, folks. We'll see you next week. What's around the corner, Eric? Fall coming up. We got a lot of stuff planned for fall and Pirate Day soon. Yeah, that's right. We got to get
Talk like a Pirate Day.
Yarg. Bye, folks.
Adios, muchachos.